So, CD Projekt Red and Studio Trigger have officially released a second trailer for Cyberpunk Edgerunners 2, and it already feels very different from the first season. Instead of following a single rising edgerunner like David Martinez, this looks like it's telling an ensemble story with multiple characters whose lives gradually become intertwined inside Night City. Alongside the trailer, we've also received official biographies and a story synopsis, and they reveal a surprising amount about what this season could really be about. So let's break down everything we know and maybe even a few things that Studio Trigger doesn't want us to notice just yet. The first thing to point out is that Edgerunners 2 is officially a standalone story. You probably won't need to have watched Season 1 to understand what's going on here. Just like Cyberpunk 2077 tells one story within Night City, this series looks like it's exploring a completely different corner of that world with an entirely new cast. But one thing that immediately caught my attention, this season appears to focus heavily on one of the original character roles from the Cyberpunk tabletop RPG that we've barely seen explored in animation or the video games, that being the media. The obvious interpretation of this is Roman. He's introduced as a young filmmaker who's obsessed with documenting real life in a society that has abandoned traditional cinema in favor of brain dancers. But Roman isn't just a guy with a camera. He's almost certainly inspired by the media role from the original Cyberpunk tabletop RPG. In Cyberpunk, medias aren't just journalists in the traditional sense. They're investigators, documentarians, war correspondents, conspiracy hunters, and truth seekers. Their weapon isn't a gun, it's information. They expose corruption, uncover conspiracies, and challenge the corporations that control what people are allowed to see. In a world where the truth is constantly manipulated, a media can just be as dangerous as a solo carrying an assault rifle. Roman seems to embody that philosophy perfectly. While everyone else fights with cyber air guns or hacking, Roman fights by recording reality itself. And I think that's where this becomes really interesting. Every character views Night City through their own lens. Weak sees regret, D sees revenge, Talia sees survival, Roman sees stories. This season might not be asking who is right, it might be asking whether objective truth can exist in a city where every corporation, gang, and individual is trying to rewrite the narrative. Let's start with Weak. His biography immediately makes him one of the most interesting protagonists we've seen in Cyberpunk. Once known as King, he was apparently one of Night City's greatest edgerunners. Now he's living in the shadow of his former glory. In Cyberpunk, status is power. It's identity. It's how people reinvent themselves. To lose that is almost like losing your entire sense of self. Weak now lives in a city that values that above almost everything else. He's probably watching young mercs become the legends he used to be. His journey doesn't seem to be about becoming stronger, it's about finding out who he is after everything that defined him has been stripped away, or maybe doing absolutely everything to get that life back. Then we have D, a Snake Nation nerd runner driven by one simple goal: find whoever murdered his clan. Reminder of how this works: clans are smaller subgroups within a wider nomad nation. So D is a Snake Nation nomad, but his clan within that were killed. At first that sounds like a straightforward revenge story, but Cyberpunk stories are never that simple. The official synopsis tells us his search eventually uncovers corporate secrets that were never meant to be found. That's where things get interesting. This immediately shifts the story from personal revenge to corporate conspiracy. Was his clan deliberately wiped out? Were they protecting something? Or did they simply witness something they shouldn't have? Whatever the answer is, D's investigation looks like it becomes one of the driving forces behind the entire series. Roman might actually be the emotional heart of the entire show. He's described as a cinephile obsessed with preserving traditional filmmaking in a world that largely abandoned it. That's actually a really fascinating concept. Because brain dancers don't let you just watch a story, they let you experience it through someone else's senses. Movies have become obsolete, but Roman rejects that present. He believes there's still value in observing life from the outside, and that's incredibly fitting for a media. His job isn't to change events, it's to witness them, to document them, and ultimately decide whose version of the truth survives. His biography even says he discovers that Night City stories are messy, brutal, and rarely have satisfying endings, and that sounds less like character development and more like Studio Trigger and CDPR are warning us exactly what kind of ending this season is building towards. Talia's background is probably the biggest culture clash of the four. She was raised inside the locked tree of the corporate world before ending amongst Maelstrom, one of Night City's most violent gangs. Those two worlds couldn't be more different. One built from control, one built on chaos. Now she's fiercely independent, deeply immersed within Maelstrom's chrome-obsessed culture. She's probably going to be the group's powerhouse, but I also think she'll have one of their strongest internal conflicts. She lived in two completely different worlds. The question is, does she truly belong in either of them? At first glance, these four people don't seem connected. Week wants purpose, Dee wants revenge, Roman wants truth, and Talia wants freedom, it seems. But every one of those goals naturally overlaps. Roman follows the story, Dee uncovers the conspiracy, Week has a past that almost certainly might be tied to all of this, and Talia's connection to Maelstrom place her directly in the middle of the violence. Rather than forming a crew from the beginning like season 1, I think the story will slowly pull these strangers together until they realize they're all chasing different pieces of the same mystery. One detail I must talk about is the trailer music, composed by Sunio Imahori, best known as the composer behind Hajime no Ippo. If you haven't watched it, Hajime no Ippo is one of the greatest sports animes ever made in my opinion. It follows a shy teenager who discovers boxing and gradually transforms into a professional fighter. At its heart, it is a story about perseverance, growth, self-belief, and constantly overcoming impossible odds. That is what I think Imahori's involvement is fascinating. The music in this trailer doesn't just sound hopeless, it sounds determined, energetic, there is momentum. It feels like the beginning of someone's rise rather than the end of their story. That could reflect these characters perfectly. Week is still trying to rebuild his life, Dee is pursuing justice, Roman wants to prove stories don't matter, Talia is searching for somewhere she still truly belongs probably. They're all moving forward, but of course it's still Night City. If CDPR and Trigger are borrowing that kind of underdog energy from Hajime no Ippo, it may only be there to make the inevitable tragedy hurt even more. So here's my theory. The final line of the synopsis still feels like the key to everything. How your lens reflects the stories of the people around you. I don't think that's just marketing, I think that's the entire thesis of the show. Week remembers the past, he searches for justice, Roman records the present, Talia fights to survive the future most likely. 4 people, 4 perspectives, 1 story. And by the end, I wouldn't be surprised if each of them believes a completely different version of the truth. Like if season 1 asked how far you would go to achieve your dream, Edgerunners 2 might be asking something even more difficult. Who gets to tell your story after you're gone? What I love most is that CDPR and Trigger doesn't seem interested in repeating David Martinez's story. Instead, they're exploring another side of Night City through 4 very different perspectives, with the concept of truth itself seemingly becoming one of the season's biggest themes. But what do you guys think? Could Week reclaim his legendary status? Who wiped out Dee's clan? What corporate secret lies at the center of this mystery? And could Roman end up being one of the most important media characters we've seen in Cyberpunk, even at his young age? Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you for more Edgerunners, because I absolutely love Cyberpunk, if you can tell.
Give me a second heart.